Я начинаю эфир на Ютубе тоже, да?
Мгм. Так, я показала. Презентацию видно, скажите, пожалуйста.
Да, все видно, можно. Да,
Мгм.
не слышу. Мгм.
So, dear friends, welcome to the next webinar of our series, Understanding Russia, webinars for students from African countries who are learning Russian language. At webinars, we talk about life in Russia. My name is Guskova Katerina, and I'm working for St. Petersburg State University. But now I'm in Moscow, so greetings from Moscow. Today, we will talk about our topic number 8. We talk about traditions and values. Cultures of different countries are an interesting topic, really, to talk about. People often travel to other countries to study or just for fun. We read websites on the internet where there is information from different countries. We watch films from different countries. Sometimes we don't understand everything. So today is like our webinar about traditions and values in Russian life. Today we decided you to tell a little bit how we choose the topics and why we choose this topic and why we think that this is a really important thing to talk about. So anthropologists describe the elements of culture. They needed to understand other countries. So without this particular stuff, it's really difficult even to communicate in the foreign language. They are needed to understand other countries and people who live in these countries. You are learning foreign languages and you know that there is a grammar of the language, but anthropologists say that there is also a grammar of culture. If we know the cultural grammar, we can better understand how people live in another country. On the slide, you can see the categories of culture. There is an author, his name is Edward Hall. We talked about him at the webinar, We Speak Russian How and About What. I guess it was 2 webinars before. So we can say that we understand another country if we answer these questions. How do people behave with each other? How do they communicate? When, how, and what do they eat? What kind of clothes do they wear? And when, where, how, and with whom do they live? How is knowledge passed to the children? How do they treat nature and animals? And how do they count the time? So once you answer these questions, you probably can speak also the foreign language. Young Louis, I guess I pronounced this correct. It's a designer from Berlin, from Germany. Made illustrations that help to understand different cultures. Yang Liu is Chinese, but she has been living in Western Europe for a long time. And she tries to show the difference between East and West. This is really important. For Russia and African countries, these illustrations are not very accurate, but here we see what is important to pay attention to once you travel. On this slide, we see a queue. The blue background is a queue in Western Europe. In Russia, the queue is the same. The red background represents the countries of the East. But it's important to know that such a queue is well organized inside. People know who is first and who is second. So again, Russian one would be on the left. We have already said that we don't speak loudly in transports, cafes, and restaurants, but in many Eastern countries, people speak loudly in a restaurant. So once we talk about like noise, the level of noise, we need to say that Russia is on the left. It's really quiet and you can't make noise a lot in Russia. In different countries, people understand punctuality and time etiquette differently. Again, you can see the difference and between West and East cultures, and you can't be late in Russia. But if you're late, you need to call on the phone and tell the person about that you will be late. So we will prefer the first one, number A. Like in Russia, we can't be late. But again, if you are late, it's not a big problem. But please warn the person beforehand. It's okay just to write to the message, I'm sorry, I will be late for 10 minutes. The transport is very bad today. In Russia, friendship and family are very important. The family is small, and there are few friends, but the relationship is very, very strong. So we communicate in small groups, but in the countries of the East, people have a lot of different acquaintance. So again, Russian culture is A. So while like friendship and our relationship in the family is important and strong, but not so much as you can see on the right. In Russia, people are happy when the weather is good and sad when the weather is bad. The weather is a great topic for conversation. Once you don't know about what to talk with a Russian person, talk about the weather. Li Young has many such illustrations. You can see them on the internet and think about different countries and their cultures. So once we talk about Russia, it will be on the left. So please talk about the weather in Russia with Russian people. Actually, once I moved to St. Petersburg, I was every day complaining about the lack of sun. You already know that Russia is a really big country. And so also we have a lot of people, and people are really different. We have about 180 different nationalities. People live in our country. But these people have their own cultures. You need to remember this. There are many religions in Russia. There are the 4 main world religions and many others. Here, like there is a statistics about like Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and Buddhism. You can see the numbers. So most of all Russian people are Orthodox. You can see this, and like it's Christians. Islam is takes the second place. Then there are other religions. We look at the percentages; they are small, but each religion is represented, and it's still a large amount of people. These religions are also part of our culture. Well, it's also important to know how do we go to visit someone. We don't invite guests very often now, but guests are a very important, like visiting people and calling for guests. It's a really important tradition in Russia. Once we invite someone, we cook a lot of food for these guests, and if you are going to visit, you must bring a gift. This is also very important. So once you are invited, you can't come with we call empty hands. It's not good. So still you need to buy something, maybe some sweets, or maybe you can even ask the host if you need to bring something. This would be also nice. Well, even you should prepare a great dinner, even if it's not a holiday. Also, it can be wine, dessert, some flowers, maybe for the like photos. In the house, guests are given slippers. We do not go home in shoes for the street. Even sometimes, if you go somewhere as a guest, you can bring your own slippers. For example, I remember once I was invited as a guest to my American students. They were celebrating someone's birthday, so I took slippers with me. And once I came to the party, you know, there was only one way I can identify Russian people. Russian people were in the slippers. They brought slippers with them. Other American people were in the boots. So please notice that once we go somewhere as a guest, we don't go there in boots. Please use slippers. And we say, you have on the slides, we say ходить в гости. Ходить в гости means to go somewhere as a guest. Гость means guest. Let's talk about lunch for the holiday. Salads first, then hot food supposed to be given, usually meat or some poultry, then dessert. During lunch, we drink wine and strong alcohol. If you don't drink alcohol, you can say no, it's okay. If you don't know how to eat a dish, you can ask about it. So you are also a foreigner, so you may not know all the details, and it's okay to ask people. The table has its own traditions. Alcohol is drunk after a toast. So you just don't drink alcohol. First, you need to say some particular phrase. And this is also some kind of, not just like cheers and that's it. No, there's supposed to be a maybe small story, maybe like a few sentences, but we're supposed to say some toast. Usually someone says a few kind and good wishes. Standard toasts you can see also on the bottom of the screen of the slides: for health, for family and friends, for love, for the parents, for world peace. In Russian it would be за здоровье, за семью и друзей, за любовь, за родителей, за мир. So if there are men and women at the table, wine and alcohol are poured by men. So the bottle of wine is supposed to be held by men, not by women. Well, the hostess offers dishes to the guests. She can do this several times. This is how she shows attention to the guests. So if you don't eat any, you can tell about it. But please be ready that, again, once you are at the table, you can be asked, like, please try this one, please try this one. Do you want me to bring this one? So you will be asked maybe a few times. There are some dishes that you should always try when they are offered to you. These are pies and homemade canned food. Every family has its own secret how to prepare them. Jam is a fruit or like berries, also popular in Russia, that we cook it with sugar. Pickles are cucumbers, water, salt, and spices. So please, once you have this on your table, don't reject. Try, and I'm sure you would enjoy this so much. Even right now, I'm watching on the slide, see the photos, and I'm really thinking about now having it. There are traditions in different countries to preserve health. In Russia, one of these traditions is a sauna, or maybe you know, the Russian name is banya. Banya. Here, people are warming themselves at high temperatures. There is a lot of steam in the Russian banya, so it's of course bath, but I will call it banya. People come out of the like banya under cold water. Then they come back in. In the banya, they beat each other with a broom, three branches. Three branches. You can see it on the screen too, so you need to beat each other with it. There are banya in every city and in the country. Men and women go to the banya separately. How do you imagine a healthy diet in Russia? We think that you need to eat 3 times a day. It's really important. For breakfast, you must have porridge. For lunch, soup is required always. And like we think it's very useful to drink tea also, like hot tea. This is really important. How to be healthy in Russia and how not to get sick. We think that most important things is to be warm. Therefore, iced drinks are not popular in Russia. We are afraid of a draft, and if we open the window, we close the door. In Russia, we say that fresh air, swimming, and summer fishing and skiing in winter are really good for your health. Well, let's talk about another way to not to become sick in Russia. Traditional medicines are really popular in Russia. If we have a cold, we drink milk with honey or tea with raspberries. We also breathe the steam of boiled potatoes. You can see the photo on the slides, the guy with this blanket. So we need to to put potatoes, steamed potatoes, and to smell the steam, and we need to cover ourselves with a blanket. So this is the way we are supposed to become healthy, to get rid of illness. In pharmacies, you can also find various herbs for colds, coughs, stomach pains, for good sleep, etc., and so on. So you can also try to breathe under the potatoes. Let's talk about superstitions. So we can say that people in Russia are very, very superstitious. That's true. There are things that we don't do because we're afraid of something bad might happen. We don't wish a happy birthday in advance, but only on or after the birthday. That was very interesting when I was, for example, my students always congratulate me with the birthday, even it would be next day, and I'm tell them, please, no, not yet, only on the day or after. You can also not wash the floor on the day when a family member or guests leave. So once someone leaves, don't wash the floor. And even like, for example, me, my mother, we don't clean the house at all. We don't clean anything. Like we are waiting once the person will get to his place. You can't leave empty bottles on the table. You can't put a hat or gloves on the table. You cannot repair clothes on yourself, like to sew. You can't do it on yourself. You shouldn't talk about your plans to other people. This is also very important. In modern Russia, you can see very few traditions and rituals, but there are traditions that are important to us. These are important events in our family and in a person's life. For example, a wedding. The official registration of marriage is carried out at the wedding place, like a wedding palace, we can say, or at the registry office. We call it ZAGS. Registration of Civil Status Acts, the Office of Registration of Events and the Family. After registration, the husband and wife receive a marriage certificate, you can see it on the photo, document, and a stamp in the passport. Now, actually, it's optional. You can not get a stamp, up to you. There are also religious ceremonies if the bride and groom want to. For example, they can go to church and they can also marry in church. Again, you can see it on the photo. After the marriage, after marriage and registration, the husband and wife and guests gather in the restaurant. Wedding traditions in Russia. Well, we need to do a trip around the city in beautiful cars. This is very important. Also, like we go to some nice spots and we can have a photo shoot in the most beautiful places of the city. When the groom comes to pick up the bride at her parents' house, he must buy her from relatives, solve riddles and complete tasks, sometimes maybe give money. So this was a very old tradition in ancient Russia to buy the bride. But of course, now it doesn't need to be bought. But for example, friends of the bride make some tasks for the groom. So he needs to do something to win the bride. When a young husband and wife enter the house, they must take a bite of aloev. It means like holiday bread. You can see it on the photo too. And they need to bite it together. Like the one who has the bigger piece will be the boss of the house. For a wedding, we usually give flowers, things for the house, and of course, money to the young people. Another important event in the family is the birth of the child. There are not many traditions, but there are important ones. The first is to talk about pregnancy in the first months only to close relatives and friends. So don't tell everyone about your pregnancy. The baby is shown only to close relatives for the first month. The child is given gifts, clothes, bed linen, like bed, money. The color of clothes for girls is pink, for boys blue. When a child gets his first tooth, the family gives him a silver spoon. And children need to be registered at the registry office. They will receive a birth certificate. You can order a medal with the name of your hometown. You can see also the birth certificate on the slide. Well, there are also some sad events in Russia, or they at the same time are very important. For example, it's a funeral. Death is taken very seriously in Russia. Therefore, all rituals are very important to us. First, the family informs relatives, friends, and colleagues of the death of the person, and they inform them about the day, place, and time of the funeral. On the day of the funeral, the Orthodox bury the dead person in the church. After the funeral, we are going to funeral dinner, and you can see on the slide we call it paminki. Paminki from the verb помнить. Помнить means to remember. So it's the special dinner when we talk about this person and we try to remember good things about that person. Everyone wears simple black clothes on this day. Black is the color of death in Russian culture. Mirrors must be covered in the house of the dead person. This paminki, this special dinner, can be organized at home, in a cafe, or in a restaurant. It can be decided by the relatives. There must be rice with raisins. You can see it on the slide. Jelly, pancakes, and vodka on the table. For the death, there is a tradition. We put a glass of vodka and a piece of bread on the table. This is kind of for the dead person. It's for him or for her. At the table during paminki, we usually remember the person, tell stories from his or her life. After the funeral, people gather for 9 days together, 40 days, and a year. This is also we call paminki, so the same ceremony, same special dinner. Like a funeral in Russia can be in the city and outside the city. There are cemeteries for different religions: Orthodox, Lutheran, Jewish, Muslim, Armenian. In Russia, it is customary to regularly go to the cemetery to visit their ancestors and relatives and friends. Relatives regularly clean graves and bring flowers. And this is important. It's supposed to be like flowers 2, 4, 6, 10. So this is about we not present, but we bring to the grave. If we want to present flowers to a woman, it's supposed to be 1, 3, 5, 7, etc. Also, there is a special day in the Orthodox calendar. We call it Parental Saturday. On this day, it's customary to remember their dead relatives, loved one, and parents. Family traditions are a very big topic, but even if you know a little about them, you already have a better understanding of how the family lives and how society acts. Another important tradition in Russian, in Russia, is Russian folk tales, fairy tales. In Russia, all children read them. Parents read fairy tales to young children. A fairy tale is the cultural values of people, their character and ideas. So that's why fairy tales are not only read by children, but also there is a lot of researches done in the university about fairy tales. There are many performances of fairy tales in the theater too. There are also translations of African fairy tales into Russian. We really love fairy tales. The Russian fairy tales are beautiful and fantastic. It has typical situations and typical characters. Here are some typical plots. So I'm going you to read 3 typical plots, but of course there are more with like variations, like little like changes of parameters, but the idea always is the same. Well, number 1, Kощей the Immortal, it's the negative character, stole Vasilisa, the beautiful princess, because he wanted to marry her. Prince Ivan went to rescue her. Animals and old people help him along his way. Baba Yaga, it's a Russian, in the folk stories, a witch. Baba Yaga, it's a witch, very old lady, also helps this character. And at the end, of the tale, Prince Ivan wins the battle with Kощey and marries Vasilisa. So this is the first plot. Number 2, Ivan the Fool, not a king, not a prince, but Ivan the Fool, we call it Ivan Durak, found out that the snake stole Vasilisa. He is on his way. He's helped by a beautiful Sivka-Burka horse, which he took care of. At the end of the tale, Ivan the Fool marries Vasilisa and becomes a prince. On the slide, you can see Tsarevich. Tsarevich, it's a Russian version of prince. And number 3, the youngest daughter of a rich man, usually it's Maria or Mariushka, falls in love with a handsome young man. His name is Finist, and he comes to her at night in the form of the bird. The elder sisters found out about it. They're jealous about this, and they somehow hurt Finist. And so Maria goes to look for him. So the injured Finist, and so Mariushka goes to look for him. This is the basic 3 stories. So in one, the hero is Ivan Prince, in another one, Ivan the Fool, and in the third one, it's a girl who is looking for her man. In the fairy tale, there are always typical positive and typical negative characters. Let's look at them. So positive characters is Ivan Tsarevich, or Ivan the Prince, son of the Tsar. Tsar is a king. Then you have Ivan the Fool, Ivan Durak, the youngest son of the person. And this is also very important. He's always the youngest son. Then you have Vasilisa the Beautiful, or you can also, in some fairy tales, she's a Vasilisa the Wise. So being wise is very important for a Russian woman, being very clever. And also youngest daughter of the peasant or merchant. Then let's talk about negative characters. Negative characters are Kощey the Deathless. It's like immortal bad character of all Russian fairy tales, who is always stealing the woman, the princess, and tries to marry her. Then we have Baba Yaga, the witch, the old lady I already told you about. And sometimes it can be even a king, a Tsar, a negative character. Who helps the main hero? Usually it's animals and fish, and of course some good old people. But also you need to know that Baba Yaga, this old witch, I guess it was, yes, you can see her on this slide. Yes, here, she is. You can see her, this is old lady. She's a negative character, but in some fairy tales, she can help the main hero. Sometimes she can help the hero, and that's why we can call her kind of trickster. Maybe you heard about this word trickster. It's not negative, not positive character. It's the character who always can be good and bad according to situation. So this character usually is very pragmatic. Well, let's talk about characters. Usually a positive hero in Russian fairy tales is a brave, kind, intelligent young man. He always helps people and animals. And the positive heroine is a kind, beautiful girl. She's kind to people and animals. She knows how to do her homework well. And I would like to add that usually heroine is also very clever in Russian fairy tales. The goal of the good characters is just world and helping the weak and other people in dangerous situations. But the negative hero is greedy, loves money, a stupid, cowardly person or creature. The goal of such characters is to get money and to get a high status. At the end of every fairy tale, good always wins over evil. All brave and kind characters win. The evil and greedy get punished. Another important genre or type, we can say, of the fairy tales is animal tales. Animals in fairy tales have different characters and different cultures. In Russian fairy tales, usually we have the fox, the hare and wolf, and the bear. Once we talk about the fox, she's always cunning and she's always deceiving other animals. The hare is always weak and stupid. And the wolf is always greedy and stupid, and he wants to kill everyone. The bear is very strong, but not so smart. Who do we usually sympathize with? We will always think about weak and offended characters, for example, a hare. And as an example of Russian fairy tale about animals, I would like to tell you about Teремок. Teремok, it's an old-style Russian home or made from the wood. You can see it on the picture. So the mouse found a small house in the forest and began to live there. Then a frog, a hare, a fox, and a wolf began to live there. They lived well together. Then the bear came. He was big and heavy. The little house broke down, but the animals didn't swear or fight. They built together a new house, a big one. In this tale, the characters of animals are very typical, but it shows that different animals can live together, find a common language, and build a house together, just like different Russian nations in one country. The fairy tale shows how people can live together if they have different characters and different cultures at the same time in one big house. This is all for today's webinar. Thank you so much for attention. We talked about really many topics already. I hope you enjoyed it. And next time we will talk about everyday Russian life. So now I'm going to close the presentation, and I will check if you have any questions about the material.
I have a question also.
Please.
Probably two questions.
Okay.
The first one was comes from the last episode, the last lesson we had about, I mean, if somebody can be a Russian citizen by investing in Russia. And the second one is, what do you think is the moral lesson for about fairy tales for adults?
Okay, as for the first question, I'm really sorry I forgot to check, but I will definitely do it for the next time. Yes, I remember you asked me if you can be given a citizenship once you investigate. Yes, I will do it next time for sure. As for the second,
if you invest in Russia, let's say that you put money to, maybe you buy stocks or something like that.
Okay. Charles, I promise you, I will check it for the next time. As for the lesson that is given in all fairy tales in Russia, it's like to be kind to other people, to be kind to animals, not to think about money, not to think about some statues, just do good deeds. That's it.
Not looking for money is part of being good.
I would tell you that one of the characters I told you, it's Kashey Deathless. Kashey Deathless is an old man who is always stealing the princess. He, in all fairy tales, this is the character that he's very rich and he's very greedy, and it's said that he's always counting his money and he's always saying to princess like, look, I'm so rich, you need to marry me. So in Russia, being rich is not regarded as some value. It's not the aim, it's not the goal for Russian people, and it reflects in Russian fairy tales. Like if you be rich, it's good. So for example, once Ivan Durak married princess and he became a king, wow, that's great, but that wasn't his goal from the beginning. It's a luck. It's good if you are rich, but it's not what we are looking for.
Thank you.
Can I
Mhm.
say something? Yeah.
Okay,
There's
Ezra,
also,
yes,
yeah. I mean, you also mentioned about the animals, and you said actually the bear is smart and not. I mean, it's strong but not smart.
yes. No,
I
but I mean,
totally
like he's
disagree with
kind
that
of
because
not very intelligent, you know. He's like he's big and he sees something. And for example, when he came to Terimok and he saw this beautiful house with a lot of animals, he didn't think that there is no space for him. Also, he tried to go into the house without thinking that it would like broke it forever, you know.
yeah,
So
but I mean, you've seen the Masha and the bear, right?
yes, of course.
And he was really smart for me.
In animation, yes, of course. In animation, it's kind of this is a humor style. Yes, they made him very smart, but this is not typical in. It's a modern animation movie. Once you read old Russian fairy tales, you will
I
not
see.
find very smart bear.
I see.
Mm-hmm. Yes, let me check from the chat. So how popular is a coffee nowadays? Very popular. There are lots of coffee shops and very good coffee you can find here. Like also there are lots of smells and tastes for coffee. It's not only one type of coffee, it's some rough, some citrus rough, orange rough, like really, really lots of like types. You can see a very big menu of the coffee. We do appreciate and we love nice coffee. And then like what about greetings random people on the street? Like smiling, it's not normal thing to do. Yes, it's not normal thing. I mean, like we are not trying to we try to avoid to waste our energy for the people that we will never see after. For example, I see the person, or for example, I'm going to buy a ticket. There's a lady, like it's the only one time I see her. Why should I spend my energy? Why should I smile to this woman if it's just like to buy the ticket and to go? That's it. It's about not wasting your energy, your emotions. Once you smile, that means that you're about to have some more close contact. You're about to communicate, to start being involved in someone's life.
I see. Yeah, but
So that,
you also mentioned in superstition. What are the things that I have to be careful whenever I try to give something for someone? Do you guys have like a superstition in gifts? Because you didn't mention
yes,
that.
I guess we talked about this.
Ah,
Maybe yes, I remember we talked about holidays and how to
um,
celebrate, and I told you that knife is not a very good present because knife, that means you will have a fight with the person. Also, handcraft is not so good because you will cry. Also, a watch is not good present. It means that you will be separated, you will split with this person, split up. Yes, so knife. And yes, also this, I forgot how it is in the Russian.
scissors.
Yes, scissors, you also, it's about like have a fight with the person.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good
And
one.
yes, and some like jewelry that with a pearl, you know, pearl, it's a symbol of tears in Russian culture. And so it's also better not to buy it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, then thank you so much for your attention. See you next Monday. Have a nice evening. Goodbye. До свидания. Хорошего вечера.
До свидания. See you next
Thank
week.
you.
До свидания.
Bye.